Hello and welcome to episode 67 of The Imperial Truth. My name's Greg. Joining me with straight from the London Heresy is Neil.
Hello, Greg.
Hello, Neil. Yes, you might be able to hear in my voice that we are literally recording this intro right after getting back from London from quite a cool event, but we're going to go into all that next episode because this needs to be out. Toot sweet. So, look forward to that, hopefully. Before we go any further, Element Games, do you want to cover Element?
Yeah, so Element Games is your one-stop shop for everything you need hobby-wise, and they do some fantastic deals on whatever you want, and they were even giving away vouchers at the event, which I thought was pretty cool.
Yes, a not insignificant amount of money was given away sponsoring the London Heresy, which is really cool. And basically, any plastic crack you want from GW, you can get, and from Element, and on pre-release week, it's 5% off. So that's including the new Blood Bowl stuff that's been released, which looks fantastic. So, loads of cool stuff. All the scenery as well. The Shadow War scenery that's now available, which makes them really cool. I'm hoping to put a suggestion forward to the club that we make a dock board with all that Shadow War scenery with the cranes and stuff, and then some containers and that, and have this urban dockyard, because that will look really cool. So elementgames.co.uk or go through theimperialtruth.com.
Indeed, click the banner.
Yeah, and of course Miles. So I did say we were going to give away one of the Miles sessions on the charity draw. We haven't had much follow up on that draw, and I think there's a few reasons for that. One of which is the kind of overshadowed by the Freddy's the household night draw, which we'll go into later. So I've actually taken that down, and we'll do it another way, I think, because I don't want to just have £10 go into the kitty and give it away that way. It's not really the best way. So Miles, anyway, he does his online tuition as well as his commission painting, and he's setting up a Patreon as well, which is happening.
Really?
Yeah, happening at some point in the summer. I can't remember the exact details, but you can go and find Lil Legend Studios on Facebook, and he's hinting at that, and on Twitter as well, piling out loads of cool stuff. So keep an eye on what he's up to.
Yeah, definitely. It's interesting. I saw some other painters do set up Patreon accounts, and if you wanted to, find out, see how they do things, you had to sort of sponsor them, as it were.
Yeah, and there's lots of cool different ways of doing it, and good luck to them. Okay, so have you been managing to do stuff? You haven't had too much stress involved up to the London Heresy, have you?
No, I mean the beauty of the London Heresy was that I wasn't having to play, so I didn't feel as though I had to try and get anything done to a deadline or anything like that. So I've been very chilled back and relaxed, and just getting a little bit of painting done.
Corax?
No, not Corax.
The Summoner.
Yes, indeed. But it started off, and I was cracking away with Corax, and I was getting to the stage where it was becoming harder and harder to sit at the table for anywhere near an hour.
More of a chore.
It was becoming, and I thought, do you know what? Every time I've had this with all my other entries that I've done for Golden Demon, I've just switched on to something else, and then reinvigorated what I was doing, and then switched back again. So, I was thinking I don't want to stop doing what was needed for the charity. So I thought, do you know what? I'll just crack on with the Summoner. So I got him out of the box, got on quickly washed, and then just started laying some paint down. And it has worked. I've really it's really reinvigorated the old painting mojo. So I'm steaming away at the moment and trying to get him done.
What colour scheme was that?
I'm going for a Thousand Suns colour scheme.
Oh, cool. Excellent.
Nice and bright, easy, red's good colour. My plan is, because obviously, Danny was the winner of this piece, and my thought process is try and get one, a good competition piece done, and two, make it as sellable as possible.
Sure.
And I do feel as though Thousand Suns could be quite popular.
So, have you done that with a silver and build over the top of it, or?
No, very much in the sort of usual blending style. So blending, up quite high from a very dark red to a very bright red.
Okay,
so
cool.
It's looking quite good, actually. I'm quite pleased with how, because the red recipe took a while to get right.
Sure.
Because, there's quite a few reds in the GW range.
There are, yeah.
And sometimes they don't always intermingle very well, if you know what I mean. Like, you start off with one tone, and if you end it on the wrong tone, it just doesn't quite look right.
Yeah.
But I've sort of stuck with doing a Mephiston red base, a couple of coats of that, giving it a good wash down with the crimson, and then pretty much building it up from Evil Sun Scarlet, Wild Rider red, and then going into the Edge highlight orange colour. So,
yes,
and that those tones seem to work quite well. So I'm sort of sticking to that.
Awesome. On my side of things, we've had something come up that's been added to my diary, which is going to be cool. Hopefully, I just need to finalise it all, and it's going to involve playing some Heresy and trying to get a game right with a colleague, with Dan, in fact, who's been on the Heresy before and talk about it at the club. But in doing so, I've kind of agreed to play a Mechanicum list, which is not fully usual, and this will in a few months be really obvious what's happened. So I'm going to be a bit vague at the moment because I've been asked to be, and it's quite cool to reveal it later. But I went on to Heresy Trading and I picked up some Ursarax. So they're being painted, and I've never used them either. So it's cool to have 6 of those. And I've also picked up off Joe, who was selling some of his stuff. I've got he converted a Domitar with the 40k, the Plague Wing, the Plague drones, the fan jet things.
Another one joined.
Yeah, to make his Ursarax. So I'm going to try and smooth over the plague drones so they look less corrupted and damaged, because the rest of the army's not like that. So I'm going to see what I can do on that. Worst case scenario, I think I just green stuff over it and try and smooth it all over. We'll see. Who knows? But I've got to get on with the painting of these so they're ready for when I need them. So it's push the wolves back again.
Poor wolves. They're always getting put to the back of the pile.
Well, I did pick up a Sakaran for them today. Which was dropped off. I also picked up on Heresy Trading from Pete Dunn. So that was a really good deal, bearing in mind it's built and magnetised again.
Perfect.
So it's like awesome. It's not much cheaper than it would have been, but it's built and magnetised. Yeah, that's a huge time saving. And that actually at the moment, with everything that's going on with a new edition and what have you, and the comments about the books and things like that, and the rules only lasting so long, if you want to pick up the Heresy Black books, you can find quite a lot going on Heresy Trading at the moment, and various trading groups and on forums. So if you do want to pick them up, you might get a deal. I'm not promising that because they're heavy books as well. So yeah, it's not cheap to post them off, but you might find a good deal if you're looking, particularly if you buy more than one of them. And they're still, as we said before, books 1, 2, and 3 were, they were out of date a long time ago. But that fluff, the background is still the same.
Yeah, and the missions still in there.
Missions still work, and, even in 8th where there might be different styles and things going on like that, there's still resources that can be turned into good missions, so there's plenty of opportunity.
And they won't be, as we've discussed before, Forge World are not going to be rewriting all of those books to be re-released as like a second edition set of Heresy books. You're gonna have, they're gonna probably still be selling those, and if you wanted to pick some up cheap, great way of doing it.
Yeah, probably. What they might do, I mean, I don't know. There is a possibility, I suppose, that they just release the backgrounds when those books are like out of print, because do they want to do a print run of those books again? Probably not, because they are so out of date, but and don't fit. But that people will always want that story to a point. Yes. Those people who want that background. So there's possibility for them to do background only or Legion specific kind of books. Who knows? Who knows? It's a big wide world out there. We've got to get through 40k changing over first, and then see. But it has caused some interesting discussions about if 40k changes over and people love it, some people don't want to go back to playing a clunky game version of the game, which is 7th edition, which is Horus Heresy. So some people who will want to stick to 7th no matter what, and there's these people who are like, no, I don't want to play it until it's 8th now, because I'm so looking forward to being it streamlined and what have you. So there's a real kind of interesting mix going on, and yeah, we've got to roll with it. I think you got to make your own mind up. Whatever you do, try and do it, have fun with the game. And if it is a case of it's not fun for you because you want 8th, then cool, But what that can do, potentially, and it's hard because we don't know what 8th would do to units, but we're talking about the Heresy where people are talking about playing their Legion, and there is that balance between playability and collecting and having units you want. Well, I'm fairly sure that tactical Marines are going to be around, and I'm fairly sure that, White Scars are still going to use jet bikes pretty well. And that kind of thing, Night Lords are going to be dropping out of the sky and terrorizing people. So you can almost guess that certain units are always going to be used. Now, it might be that you hold off buying your big tank or your ultra specialized units, but, you're probably going to want some rhinos if you're doing an infantry style list, or, I can't see the Spartan being rubbish. So, I think there's basics you can always get, and you can prepare for a new army, for a new edition. I mean, as I say, they haven't confirmed they're doing it yet, but I'd put a 10 on it if I had to.
Yeah, I would put money on that it's going to change over. How quickly the change is another discussion entirely, but I think, it's definitely coming.
Yeah, and you never know. We've got UK Games Expo and Warhammer Fest coming up. We might get more information at those as well. So,
and you can bet that they're probably, the Warhammer Fest is going to be one of those seminars like they've done in the previous years.
Yeah, and it's all going to be
and
about
the questions are going to be coming.
Yeah.
So they're going to have to field those.
Yeah, they are, and it'll be interesting to see how they do it. From what I gather, they're focused on getting everything for 40k ready for 40k release. Whether that's been done or not, I don't know. I'm not privy to any of that information, but you would hope that if they are doing that, most of it's ready. But Forge World is not a huge team. We've said this before. They've got a lot going on with all their different departments. You only got to see how well Blood Bowl's selling, which is shown by the fact they're still releasing plastic box miniature, boxes of teams when we all thought it was going to go to resin pretty quick. So if they're doing it still in plastic, that means they know they're going to sell the quantities to make the money back on the plastic. So yeah, they're busy. There's a lot going on. So, good luck to them in doing it. And all of us want Heresy to be brilliant. I can't see there being a major issue with the Legions not playing the way that you want them to play, not feeling like Legions, because they've done that once and they did it to a point where everyone liked it. So yeah, they've got to start again maybe, but if they've done it in one system, they can do it in another system. It might take a bit of a different take on things. It might take a lot more working out because the way things synergize might be different. I don't know, but I can see them getting it, pretty much right straight away. So.
Oh yeah, definitely. I think, if you think of what a great job they've done with the Heresy to date, I'm confident that team is pretty, you've got the same sort of team guys working on it. I can't see them suddenly taking a massive U-turn on the, how they want things to be and how they want things to play. It's just gonna, if you give them some trust, I think they're gonna pay it back.
Yeah, that's it. You've joined in this game because of what they've done, and now I think you have to owe them that little bit of trust that they will continue to create a game that's evocative of the setting moving forwards. But hey, it's all good. Okie dokie. Release-wise, been fairly quiet, but some awesome releases. We had the Segment Terminators, and the Kenatite Occult Blade Cabal. So which there's the set and there's the upgrade kit as well. So if you've already got your plastics and you want to jump on those, £20 for the upgrades, that's okay, I suppose. The £70 for the 10 guys sounds expensive, doesn't it?
Does sound dear, yeah.
But, they're cool. Whatever, if people want them that way, they'll buy them that way. If they want to just upgrade plastics, they'll buy them that way. So.
Oh yeah, definitely. And I think it's good that they're still doing those sort of, those options for people, because this is a very, still quite a new set. You could argue that they might have just gone straight for saying, well, no, we're just going to sell it with the plastics, but.
Yeah, and I think there was a bit of a kind of begrudging kind of acceptance that it doesn't look like the Sekhmets are going to get upgrades. It's a full kit of 50 for 5.
Yeah.
They're cool though. I like them. I think they're awesome. They look groovy, so we might start seeing those Sekhmet armies around that were always talked about.
That must take us close to the end of what we saw at the Weekender, I would think.
Yeah, there's not a lot left, is there? I'm trying to remember now. That was completed, like, in the cabinets. No, I don't. I'm going to get this wrong, but I'm going to say no.
Yeah, I can't think of anything, personally.
So, because I'd say the Sisters of Battle vehicle wasn't, like, they had a model of it, but it wasn't being shown as, like, the next thing to come.
Yeah, and I have a feeling that maybe that was possibly shown off because there was that picture in the book.
Yeah,
maybe.
Exactly.
Well, hold on, there's a picture of it. We better, let's show them it in the flesh.
Yeah, and we're 2 weeks away from Warhammer Fest, where Magnus is going to be available. So 1 more week, maybe there's something we can't remember. But none of the Space Wolf stuff. There's only the Dreadnought, and you can get that.
Yep.
So, yeah, we're about on what we were saying, which is cool. And hopefully then getting another look at roughly 3 months of stuff from Forge World going forwards to Drew Over. And
definitely.
And I'm sure there'll be people tweeting and Facebooking all of that groovy stuff. And then Games Workshop should do themselves about an hour later with really good photos. But keep an eye. Okie dokie. Black Library. So this is, later on in this episode's all about Black Library. It is Aaron and John being on, and we have on the coming soon, Black Legion has been announced, so second in the Black Legion series. And say this because, Abaddon and Sigismund feature quite well in that. So that's on the coming soon for August. Now, if you want the limited edition, there's only 2,000. And I'm thinking you want to be pressing that remind me and making sure you know when that goes available, because I think that's going to fly. And we discussed that with the guys as well. But also Talon's coming out in August as well, which is all the stuff John's done. Talon Executioner, Witness, Ironclad, and Siren. So kind of not the full Talon set, but the full Talon stories that haven't appeared anywhere else, because a couple of other pieces appeared in other collections. So they're avoiding doing that. So people don't moan at them, which is cool.
They get moaned at left, right, centre, don't they?
Yeah, they're never going to win, are they? So yeah, and so it's been, solid but quiet-ish in that front, which is cool. It's going to happen. As I say, with Warhammer Fest coming up, we're going to get that splurge of interest as well.
Yeah, we'll get loads of info, and it will all be talking about all the new stuff. And
cool. Yeah. So because of the build-up for the event, because of real life and things like that, we haven't got a huge episode this week. We will be going straight into the interview with Aaron and John. And I really hope you enjoy it, and we'll be back after that. Well, I'm on the next episode part anyway, but Neil will be back after that.
Yeah.
Cool. Okay, joining me now we have previous guest on the show, Mr. John French.
Hello.
And new guest, Mr. Aaron Dembski-Bowden.
What up?
Is that, did I get that right? Or near
you
enough
got it
right?
as right as anyone ever gets it. That's good enough for me.
That's what matters. Excellent. Well, welcome to the Imperial Truth. We got you guys on to chat, obviously, about what you're up to and everything else, but you've written some heresy books between you, I think it's fair to say.
Yes, some. Yeah.
Indeed. I think we probably stay right at the start. We might delve a little bit into Praetorian of Dawn and The Master of Mankind, because they've been out long enough now, so go read them, quite frankly. If you haven't read them, you're missing out. So there might be some spoilers for those books. But before we get too far into that, John, could you describe The Master of Mankind for me?
The Master of Mankind. It is a story about the actual, what the Great Crusade was actually about, and the death of the Emperor's dream to save mankind, in a nutshell. It happens in the web way.
And yeah, stuff happens.
With fighting with demons and
that's better.
Transcendental beings and that kind of stuff.
It was all a bit sensible at the start. I wasn't used to that. It wasn't quite the. I got the pitch off you. I can't remember where it was now. Warhammer World for something, and I was like, I've got to read this book. Yeah, you were starting to feed me just a couple of little lines, and I was like, yeah, I'm reading that book. That was good. Aaron, do you want to have a go at describing Praetorian of Dawn?
It's a book that I actually gave John all the ideas for about how to just give a Legion character and.
I hate you so much.
I started stuttering because I was grinning. I was like, come on, just finish it. No. Praetorian of Dawn is about the first tendrils of the Traitors' attack in the Sol system, where Dawn essentially has to deal with the vanguard of the Alpha Legion. I don't want to give away too many spoilers, so.
Yeah, I think we will go into that, because part of what I want to talk to you about is both those books have elements which have caused reactions from the fans, should we say? I think that's fair to say.
Yeah.
Within Praetorian, we have specific incidents, and within The Master of Mankind, we have elements of the story which can be read a number of ways, and have been read every single way.
How spoilerific are we going to go?
Oh, stuff it. Let's just go full spoilerific. So easy. Okay,
at the bleeding edge of that, we've got the death of Alpharis. At the other end of it, we've got the fact that the Emperor might not have been the nicest man in existence.
Yes.
Is that it, roughly?
Yeah, that's it. Particularly the scene with Angron, and everything that goes on there in that book. Him, potentially being called just a number, and all that jazz. How difficult as a writer is it to approach a subject that you know is going to have ripples in the we call them ripples politely in the fan base?
Ooh, what a
honest are we
question!
going to be here, John?
What a question to start with.
Go straight in.
Whoa. Yeah.
Actually, if you'll permit me a moment of stomach clenching honesty here, John. This is something that me and John actually talk about a fair bit, because with every book that I write, there'll be various points where I'm messaging him on Facebook going, I don't know, what if people say X about Y, and what if they say A about B? And John's reply is always the same. You know the law, just write it and stop worrying. And Master of Mankind was a lot like that, because I kept thinking, well, you know what, I know this is true because I've been in all the IP meetings and it's getting like triple checked by various law people. But I kept thinking, some people are going to think that I'm just making this up. And John was just, again, he was like, you know you're right. You know you're just write it.
Yeah. It's really difficult, actually. I think, especially now, when there's so much attention on the series and so much attention on the details of the series, and especially when you're presenting a new faction or the Emperor or the Custodes for the first time, people are on it straight away for what you're saying about in particular that faction, but also how it interprets. And it can be really, really difficult because, like Aaron says, on one side you know what the truth is, but also sometimes it's, and completely understandably, for some people they haven't necessarily read all the material, or they haven't, or they read the material, but for them they interpret it in a particularly different way. And as you introduce more facts, you just know that's going to knock some fans' perceptions off the direction that they've been going. It can be difficult because you start to think, well, how is this book actually going to go down when it actually hits the street?
I think, though, it's worth bearing in mind that there's always that first week where most of the talk about it, especially in certain Reddity, Channy kind of places, are by people who haven't read it and are just reacting to just a couple of like facts or people's interpretation of the facts from the book. I mean, I got an email from one of the fairly high up GW brass who said when they'd read the reaction to Master of Mankind on one of those Channy Reddity places, and they said they seem to believe in a version of 40k that has never existed. And I thought, well, that's, what it's like on those boards, though. It's just indignant, superior rage that their way is the way.
Absolutely. And actually, I found, because, again, that a lot of that chat came out, and I had the same thing. I was like, do you read different 40k books to me? Because when John told me a couple of things in the build-up to just tease me, I think, and I was like, yep, that fits. Oh, this book's going to validate, like, something I've been saying, not necessarily the specifics, but the general feel that, yes, the Emperor might not be a good guy, but, there is something that he is working towards, etc., etc., and, maybe those Primarchs aren't sons anymore. Were they ever sons? I never thought they were, personally, and people could still argue that they are, but, that's my opinion on it. But
I'd argue that they still are.
I think this is one of the things. There's one of the things with trying to do heresy books in particular is we're trying to write novels with character viewpoint and trying to show truths rather than tell them.
Yeah.
And that means you can have lots of contradiction and different viewpoints and stuff like that, and that's really cool. Actually, that's where the fun is, and you can have misunderstandings and people in the universe. There's a particular, I think, thing which can happen with all fictional universes, where because we have this kind of super user view, we can buy all the material, we can buy especially about 40k or heresy. We can, your average reader knows more than anybody within any of those universes. So we kind of think that everyone should have that kind of macro view that we do, where they don't. They know a fraction of that, and they get things wrong all the time. Or they believe things in a particular way, and it makes them act in a certain way. And that's why it actually gets really interesting. I mean, it's like if you wind it all the way back, Horus, if when the demons were showing Horus the vision of the future, and they're gone, actually, the reason why you've got no statues, mate, is because actually as a result of this conversation, you're going to go off and betray this entire Imperium and then get killed. He probably wouldn't have signed the deal.
Yeah, and also as well, as I proved there, I'm trying to make a point succinctly, which doesn't always have the nuances, and when you're writing things online, it becomes even more kind of like that, you're streamlining what you're saying and losing things like that. But there certainly was a feeling of there were people reading a different set of books to those that I were. And maybe that's because they wanted to, maybe that's because they just read it a different way, or I mean, I don't know, this could be a whole myriad of reasons why.
Yeah.
A lot of it, as you say, was they weren't hearing the whole story. They were reading isolated bits of information and forming their own reasons as to how that happened.
Yeah.
And that particularly happened with Praetorian of Dawn and, Alfarius. And the death of Alfarius was, he dies. That's rubbish.
How can that possibly happen? And what were they trying to achieve, and how could they have done this? And was he trying to kill Dawn and so on? And the answer is, you'll never know because he died. And that's not, sort of me just being kind of like, oh yeah, ha ha ha. It's like, no, actually, yeah, he had probably all kinds of things he would have done, but he couldn't because he died. And that's what happens when really significant people die like that. They go, and all of the things that they would have done or put in place, they just vanish, and future goes off on a different path. But yes, there was some of the theories and some of the questions I got off it were elaborate in terms of trying to make what had been in the book interpreted in a different way, so that he was alive, basically, or it was a big trick. Because the whole book had been about a big trick or a series of big tricks, and it's actually just the one of the moments of truth in it is all of this stuff, and then bang. But yeah, it's certainly apparently some people have rage quit their armies, so they said online about it.
That's a mark of honour.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, kind of. But the weird thing as well is that I get it from both sides. On that, some people think that I massively overcooked the Alpha Legion, or that I massively undercooked them and favoured the Imperial Fist. Normally, the rationale being that I favour one side or the other.
Oh God, I truly loathe that accusation.
It's amazing. It's a wonderful accusation. Again, it's one that we talk about quite a lot because it just doesn't really figure in any writer's universe.
Yeah, I've never met anyone who thinks I like this, so I will write it the best.
Yeah,
or I'll make them win because I think they're the best. Like who thinks like that?
No,
actually, yeah.
The opposite's more true.
Especially writers. We don't really do that. If we like something, we're likely to actually be really cruel to it. Not in that kind of way to just be mean to it in a reverse psychology way, but actually that means that you're paying attention to it, and the narrative being doing nasty things to characters or factions means that you're putting more dramatic impetus behind them. You're giving them more to do, more to react to, and so on. So actually, if somebody does like something in the universe, it's more likely that it's going to get battered. Than anything else.
The rules writers have always said as well, when they're working on their favourite army, they don't want to be seen to be favouring them either. And that usually ends up with them falling that much, say on the safer side than they would with an army they're indifferent about, or not indifferent about, but they're, have less of a feeling towards. But
yeah, I think that's probably true. I think also I don't really have any sort of favourites. If I have, and if I do have a favourite legion, I think it's probably the Blood Angels, and I've come nowhere close to writing. I don't think anything about. I think I've killed some of them in a book, but nowhere near to that. So it's a very strange thing to be accused of.
And it's weird because I felt Praetorian was trying to show. It showed us both aspects of the Alpha Legion. It showed us their ability and their assuredness, which bleeds into overconfidence, and then the rigidity of the Imperial Fist, but also quite obvious in there that that's not because that's the only way they work, but that's the way they believe in the rules and everything else. but to break the shackles of them being quite a stunted legion in the way they fight.
Yeah, I mean, again, in some ways, a lot of that is also subjective. I mean, I think that the particular scene where Alpharis and Dawn talk to each other about their different sort of combat methods is the one that really sort of brings that home. But even then, there is a kind of a layer behind that, which Alpharis doesn't say to Dawn at that point. When Dawn sort of goes, yeah, you could have done this, you could have done this. It's not that I don't understand you. I just choose to be a different way. Could they have chosen to be a different way?
Yeah.
Because if you're constrained so that you will only think that certain decisions are good, do you actually have a choice? Even if you think you're making a choice. You know, it's the difference. I think we're talking about, we'll loop this neatly around to Custodians. Watch this. I think it was one of the Weekenders, and Chris and I were talking about free will and Custodians, and how, you know, the old line of they could never betray the Emperor or anything like that. And someone went, well, then how do they, I think one of the questions was, well, how do they do anything? Does the Emperor need to tell them to do anything? It's like, no. They don't have free will. But that doesn't mean they can't make choices. It just means that those choices, even the consideration of doing those certain things is just absent from them. It doesn't even cross their mind. And so in that way, they are kind of, they don't have free will. And in the same way, the question could be asked, even though Dawn goes, yes, I understand this, absolutely, I could have done this. And so it's like, yeah, but your nature, how much of your nature was determined by the Emperor, and how much was it determined in a certain way, so that actually you can think that you could have made that choice, but you were never going to make that choice. Ever. You were going to be the way you were going to be. And I'm not saying that's right or wrong, but I'm just saying there's, it's, that again is an in-universe argument that they're having, where you could play a different way.
Sure, that leads on into, you can go back and start looking at nature, nurture, the Primarchs, right from the beginning from that, and all those other great questions that the heresy has thrown up and, will never answer, even though we see what we think are clues through various books.
Yeah. Which brings us to, are they all numbers?
Yeah. Yes, Aaron.
How specific and artsy shall I be? Because there are two ends of the spectrum there.
Yeah.
Well, specifically, on page 1, okay, no, the point of the Master of Mankind is every time I approach a book, I do it with two things in mind. It's my job, in a very cold, serious and sincere way, to give context to all the stuff that we've known for 30 years. Why does Angron rebel? Why does Angron think these things? It's my job to give context to that, to define it. But it's not my job to confirm it and make it 100% right. Which is why things like, Angron's a good example. I go into his feelings and everything, but I never went into why the Emperor teleported him away. Incidentally, that's one of those things that I had absolutely nothing to do with. I would have liked to have given some context to that too, but that was like ancient lore, and it had already been confirmed in the series earlier, so it was just one of those things. But every interaction with the Emperor in the Master of Mankind is so. I thought I'd almost telegraphed it, like how obvious it is from their points of view. So, if you look at all of Ra's interactions with the Emperor, he sees the Primarchs as the Greek pantheon. They're too human, they're volatile, they can't be trusted. He is a creature of absolute loyalty. And he sees these things as supposed to be genetic masterworks, the Emperor's finest creations, and half of them have failed. Half of the galaxy is on fire because of them. Like, he doesn't respect them. He has no reason to respect them. They are the most cataclysmic failures ever. So to him, yes, when the Emperor is talking about the Primarchs around Ra, the Emperor's not even talking. He doesn't talk to anyone. People just stand near him, and then, like, through psychic osmosis and, the connection of being in his aura, you kind of almost download understanding from him. So Ra just gets this fairly clinical, terse not even clinical, it's just terse. This terse discussion of the Primarch, this cold discussion of them. Whereas if you compare that with page one of the book, the only time the Emperor ever speaks to a Primarch, he says one word to that Primarch, and that word is Magnus. He calls that Primarch by his name. And I thought that was like the hugest indication that every character who follows on isn't quite seeing things the same way. I mean, like Sanguinius Sanguinius isn't a number to his dad.
No.
But Sanguinius is also so far above worrying about, the Emperor, these people think that my relationship with the Emperor is cold and he calls me a number. Like, Sanguinius doesn't care. Sanguinius says he's so far above that kind of thing. Whereas if you look at Ark and Land, the context of Ark and Land meeting the Emperor.
He's wearing laboratory gear.
Yeah, he's wearing
laboratory gear. Yeah.
He's in like
Does
Dr.
the Emperor actually have a
Frankenstein's
lab
lab
coat?
with lightning crackling above. It could not be more clinical and sterile and like so everyone interacts with the Emperor in a completely different way. Especially the Sisters of Silence are a great example, because at one point the sister characters in the throne room, when the convoy marches through into the webway, you have one of the knights turn around and he's like going blind, looking at the majesty of the Emperor. Yeah. Whereas a sister, like 10 minutes later, just sees just a dude in a chair. Like, what's up? Just get over yourself. Like, it's just literally just a man in a chair.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Well, I mean, where'd you go with that and I suppose you can see why a simple misreading or a kind of preconceived perspective would lead off of that. And we all come with them, particularly as readers not in that process of maybe not as steeped in the lore, that it becomes very easy to misread.
I think also there's an element in that to certain things are known about in the lore, in collected visions and in Visions of Heresy restated, about what the Emperor's plan actually was and what he was trying to do and how he was trying to save mankind. And it is kind of an unforgiving plan. It's kind of, all right, okay. Between them and the interaction between Psychers and the Chaos Gods is going to destroy mankind unless I do something. In order to do that, I have to shepherd the psychic growth of mankind. I have to do that, I need to conquer the galaxy so I can find all the Psychers. The Chaos Gods are really difficult, are very, very good at sneaking in everywhere. So I need to completely control religion, because that's one of the ways they get in. So I need to oppress that, even though I kind of know that, that things that are worshipped and so on do have a resonance in the warp and all the rest, because I'm the most powerful Psyker ever. Well, not me, the Emperor saying that, obviously. I'm not the Emperor. In order to do all that, I need to conquer the galaxy. In order to do that, I need to create the most hideous force ever imagined and have beings that can lead them. And so he creates the Primarchs, he creates the Custodes, he creates all kinds of stuff and makes all different kinds of deals. And that's all he is trying to, that's all he's trying to do. That's the, people talk about, why did he cut a deal with Mars when they're against, when they were deifying the machine god and so on? It's basically because it's not actually, you worship things. That's bad. It's, well, how much of a risk is it? Yeah. How much of a risk is that religion actually going to cause versus what you can give me? And bluntly, he needs the Mechanicum more than the deification of the machine was going to be a problem for encouraging the worship of the Chaos Gods. It's kind of that simple. So from his point of view, which we don't have his point of view, but we have what his plan was, it's all kind of actually simple. And unfortunately, things are there to play a role in that plan. How much he cares about them then individually and so on, I think is something else. But in terms of what he was trying to do, he wasn't trying to be nice to everyone. He was trying to, in his mind, from his point of view, save mankind.
Yeah. And And even within that, potentially then you're looking at, it doesn't matter how much he cares for someone, when that goal is threatened by something, it's how he reacts with what he cares about as well, potentially. So it, as you say, it's, yeah, I've always said it, this is his goal, he has this plan, he's trying to work towards it against a timeline, and, at some points he's going to have to lose things along the way, because things never go to plan. But I suppose if you're looking at it like that, then just because something's discarded doesn't mean that there was no care in the first place, and you can delve into all that potentially. Yeah. Moving on from that, we've got Chaos as this.
That was quite heavy, wasn't it?
That was
just quite heavy.
It was
for
good.
A moment or two.
It was good. I was sitting there thinking, this is good. We've got the Emperor and his plan against Chaos. Chaos itself. Now that's a much discussed topic on various podcasts.
Really?
I've heard everything from it's the ultimate evil to it's the benign force to they're actually the good guys. Which is
my word, that's amazing.
Yeah. I mean, at the end of the day, we are humans, and we are going to read from a humanistic point of view, and everything we read from an imperial point of view has Chaos as purely evil. Although outside of universe, we know that it's feeding off emotion, so there may be a sense of less evilness and more kind of it's built of what it is, and it can't help its own kind of identity because of that. Have you ever? I mean, is this something that's kind of handled at many meetings about the nature of Chaos and exactly what's going on with it?
Do you want to go?
Oh,
this is one we've talked about a fair amount as well.
Yeah, it's. I think I probably have access to more written down notes on the nature of Chaos than any other human being alive, because I've had conversations with a lot of people, but also, I mean, some of the people who invented this stuff. I don't want to name drop because it just sounds terribly lame, but I save it all because I think, okay, there's no way this isn't going to be useful somewhere down the line. But it's most often with John and with Gav Thorpe, because Gav especially is always the smartest guy in every heresy meeting. It's so weird to see his work reviewed and how his work reflects so little about how the stuff he actually talks about in meetings, because you can just sit there and listen to him for hours and he will tell you, like, actually, when we were inventing all this stuff 20 years ago, it just pours out of him, and I'm like scribbling notes as fast as I can. And
on a total, brief hijack segue, I totally bribed him with lunch when I was doing my new Inquisitor series to sit down and basically talk at me for about an hour about what was going on in the Inquisitor IP from about 15 years ago, and that was awesome.
That's exactly what I mean.
Totally awesome.
That's exactly what I mean, because everyone just talks about like, oh, the Gav Dex, that Chaos Marine Codex from like 15 years ago or whatever. It's like, he's not that guy. He is so not that guy.
They don't think of Puritans, radicals, Xanthites, Moriana, Horicianism, half of the stuff on how psychic the stuff was developed to work. Anyway, yeah, I'll shut up. Go on, sorry.
I ended up using most of it in the Black Legion series, because that is long waxing poetic on what the warp is and what chaos is. But yeah, it's you can never say enough about it, I don't think, which is why every book I end up putting in loads more.
I think, yeah, chaos is really is fascinating. I think it's one of the most amazing bits out of the entire IP, and part of it is because, like the rest of the universe, the whole universe, the question of who's the goodies, who the baddies, everybody is the baddies.
Yeah, everyone's wrong in 40k.
Yeah.
That's the point.
Everybody's wrong, and everyone is the baddies. It's if you want to put it that crudely, but chaos is it's like I remember some of these some discussions on forums from when I was working on RPG stuff, and one of the things was about sorcery versus psychics.
Sure.
Psychic powers. And psychic powers in some way being okay, even if they could go slightly wrong. And sorcery being the evil stuff. Like, the dark arts or whatever. But it's actually the same stuff. It's all the same stuff. There is no kind of like good bit, bad bit, really. It's all the same stuff. The psychic manifestations of holy psychers, if you like the Grey Knights, is still the same warp that's being manipulated in a different way as what's being manipulated by a chaos sorcerer using weird sacrificial rituals and stuff like that. It's the same thing. It's just different routes to the same to access the same thing.
But one is
because it is a mirror.
Yeah.
The warp is a mirror to the minds that shine into it. And I suppose it's kind of indicative that most of the stuff that comes out is pretty bad because everyone is the baddies.
Sure. Yeah.
So most of what comes out of their minds and what's reflected back at them.
I suppose you have to look at...
is not the pleasantest.
No, absolutely. Absolutely. I've never defended any Imperium as being the good guys, for sure. Unless you're one of the very rich people who owns whole systems, you're never going to think it's a good thing.
I don't even think they think about that.
They just blank their minds.
They don't think in terms of good and bad. It's that's very much, I think, if you want to go really deep in sort of universe, that's kind of totally understandable, but that's kind of our view. If you look back at lots of historical periods where, for example, certain other things like dominant religions or cultural practices were in play and so on, they didn't tend to think in terms of good or bad. They would think in terms of whether things were auspicious or not, or in tune with the gods or in tune with nature. And the good or bad, that idea of something falls on a moral divide is actually quite a modern thing. And I kind of think it's the same in the Imperium, is that they probably, if you were to sit down with a person from the Imperium, if it was a real place, they wouldn't know what you were talking about if you were talking about good or bad, because all they have is the strictures of their society, which is largely based around a huge amount of control and ignorance, just huge amount of forced ignorance. Blessed is the mind that's too small for doubt. Sort of like blessed is the small mind. All this kind of stuff are the kind of thoughts of the universe, and into that moral question about whether something is good or bad. That's the kind of stuff Inquisitors ask. Yeah. Because they are the closest to having a viewpoint on the universe, which is why they're interesting.
Fair enough. Yeah, I suppose so. I suppose you've got a fundamental difference of survival that it will come down to as a base. Because that's, when we read the books, it's these things are coming to kill you, fight to survive. And maybe that is an aspect. Certainly, I think, again, we're reading these books, and when a Grey Knight, uses some form of psychic power against someone who's killing either innocents or their own, fellow worshippers to generate something, we're always going to imprint, well, he just murdered someone for that, as to flavour what we then have our own context for and everything else.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely.
Awesome. So that's chaos sorted. We've done well there.
We've just sorted it.
Just sorted it.
Done.
And certainly when you were talking about Gav, it's something I hear all the time. I know you've mentioned when you mention Gav, you say it a lot, but you're not the only one. There are other authors who also pick up on Gav. I think for some people it's very much because they remember him from years ago as that young, fresh-faced guy in White Dwarf. And then for some...
Citadel Journal.
Yeah, absolutely.
Is when he first cropped up.
For me, I was like,
the Citadel Journal, assistant games developer Gav Thorpe.
Showing your age
I
there.
actually dedicated Black Legion to Gav Thorpe and Andy Chambers.
Oh, right. Excellent.
Based on an old quote from the Lord of the Rings DVD extras, where Peter Jackson is talking about Star Wars or something, and he mentions we all felt like Luke, but we all wanted to be Han.
Yeah.
And it's like that. I always felt like that with Gav and Andy. It's like I always felt like Gav, but I always wanted to be Andy. Like, that was always the thing I had growing up with those two. But Gav had the greatest thing that has ever been said in a heresy meeting. And I won't throw names around, but there had been several hours of discussion about possibilities of plots and character arcs and stuff like that. And it was going really, really, really far off the rails. And Gav said, like, perfectly straight-faced, if we could just bring it back to the lore of Warhammer 40,000 for a moment. And then there was just like this stone cold silence. And I was just like, trying not to laugh into my hand. But it was just, so that's Gav, like, right there. He's on message and he knows what he's talking about.
Mm.
Brilliant stuff. Yeah, and Imperium Secundus and various other things, listening to him talk, yeah, there's not much denying that as a fan, hearing him talk about anything in Warhammer 40k, frankly. But, you know, and being drunk at the, or tipsy, should we say, at one of the weekenders, doing his little dit with Bill King was fabulous.
I remember that, yeah.
Cool. So, Heresy.
Was that when they pitched up on stage a Pitch Factor and pitched the 12-volume dwarf mining epic?
Yes. Karaz. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. It was quite a moment, shall we say. Bless. Maybe we shouldn't talk too much about what goes on the evenings of the weekenders. Things are said not for general public. With the Heresy now,
I think actually just briefly on that, I remember actually though to get someone else in trouble. Although not, because he was awesome, was Chris Ray. I think he was on the judging panel for that. And Chris just came back with the "I'm out. I don't think it's long enough," which I think was brilliant.
Dear, dear. It would have sold. Okay, so the Heresy at the moment, obviously we're on this drive towards terror. We have we are told that the number of books is roughly known and everything else. Are there? I mean, that obviously is going to bring different problems. We're on this. We've got the numbered series. We've got the option of having books outside the series, numbered series now, that has been confirmed that that's going to happen. How hard is it as an author and as a group of authors and a whole team to work out exactly what stories and whose stories are being told pushing forwards?
I think actually, in particular, the core of that is known quite specifically, and they haven't said it, so I can't say it for Black Library, but it's known very specifically what the exact number of books or mainline novels is.
I think
known for a while. Right.
I think Laurie said it and then left a little bit of space just in case it came back to bite him. So, but so we know the general thrust, but obviously there's a lot of characters in these books.
Yeah,
it's a lot of I don't want to say conflict, because we actually have to be in the room together for there to be conflict, and we haven't had a meeting for a while. But we're at the stage of there's so much to wrap up. And I was an advocate, like, from long ago, of saying, okay, let's have, fewer more than, rather than many in terms of books. But now it's like, actually, can we wrap this up in the number that's left? Because there's a lot of loose threads to tie up and not that many books.
Does that excite anyone in terms of writing those outside of the numbered series?
I think at the moment there's just so much momentum towards getting that numbers, getting those main novels through, getting the story progressed to Terra. That's where, because that's the thing actually. It's a bigger group than it was, but still a relatively small group of people doing it who are also doing other stuff. And so the actual resource in terms of the writer's time is something that plays into that, because while Black Library are very happy to sort of talk about, oh, you want to do a novel about that? Great. At the moment, if you pop up and say, I would like to, can I explore this? It's a side thing. I'd probably go, can we get the novels that we need to do before we get to Terra done first? Would that be all right? So yeah, it's, I'm sure there is a load of other stuff to do and to wrap up across it. And it's going to be really interesting.
Do you mean specifically, what do we want to write outside the numbered books? Or do we know what's coming?
I could have asked that. I didn't think I'd get much of an answer, to be honest. But yeah, go for it. Are there stories that maybe haven't been told yet that have happened, or anything like that you are looking at thinking, yeah, I could do that?
That's really tough because
it is, isn't it?
Yeah, and I'm sure the editors would be furious if you started to go, well, these are my dreams of doing X, Y, Z. I think the obvious one, though, I do have one obvious one, is Sevatar.
Sure, yeah.
Sevatar is not supposed to feature elsewhere he's not like a major player in the Horus Heresy. He's in prison, frankly, where he belongs. And I've got like this in my head, I have this long arc, for Sevatar to turn him from a character who embodies the kind of characters that I hate, into a character that I like eventually. And he's about 30% of the way. But no, there's no space left in the Heresy for that conversion. And to be honest, it was always fairly dicey that it was looking dicey that it would go in anyway, because he's just not. I've never pegged him as a major player in the Heresy. So.
Yeah, I mean, he's perfect for that then, in terms of the potential moving forwards of something that's a character that people love, who, as you say, has no major part moving forwards now. He's done his little piece, but people want to know more about. I think it gives us hope as readers that we will be able to explore, because the one thing with the push forwards is you're going to have to leave people behind. And you're never going to please the readership anyway, because that's impossible. But some of my books I've loved the most have been looking into the rest of the Imperium as the heresies move forwards, or that minor character. It's very much about the drive and the big notes and the big characters and the forward momentum. And the thing that I've always had a slight, sort of like, oh, that'd be really cool to do. And I'm not saying that I'll do this, but because it's a very side thing, literally, is looking at the effect of the heresy on it a long, long way from the legions and the primarchs and so on, like a Imperial Army regiment or a small human-led expeditionary fleet, and it's starting to tear itself apart between loyalties within itself and being involved in smaller battles, sort of like, Calf is like some huge thing over there. Meanwhile, on this place here, there's this hideously vicious little battle going on that is just going to be completely forgotten by history. But that kind of idea of the big decisions that are made somewhere so high above them, sort of like rippling down, and how brother turning on brother goes from top to bottom in the Imperium. I've always thought that would be, for me as a writer, a really interesting thing to do. But I thought quite unlikely to a heresy battle. A heresy battle series. Like
I suppose it's more. That is treating it more as a setting rather than a ongoing arc. But yeah.
yeah, I mean, obviously readers are going to suggest things, and there is only so much time. There are only so many release slots and everything else, but you could carry on in that setting for a long time and not explore it, but that would be possibly at the detriment of moving on to another time, another set piece. And with everything that's going on in 40k at the moment, I suspect there's plenty to be written moving forwards with that as well.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing. We're, luckily, most of us are always all busy all of the time. So
Absolutely.
yeah, getting a slice of our time is tricky.
Indeed.
And getting us on a podcast pretty tricky as well.
It's, yeah. No comment.
No comment. Hailstorms.
It's all good. And Tyrannid scythes being cleaned up, it's all good.
I've done that now. He's finished.
Is
Well,
he?
his scything talent is finished.
Exciting talent, excellent. No, it's good. It's good. People will be happy that you are hobbying. They will be most impressed.
Slowly.
Slowly. I haven't actually done any hobby in ages. I'm looking across my office now at the unpainted models gathering thin sheen of dust.
Yes. As is, I've put that thing in that I am trying not to buy more stuff till I painted stuff. Trying.
Oh, that's the greatest
The great
hobby
Yeah.
lie ever. That's how I started this year. I've had to reclassify several purchases as not hobby
Yeah, I'm telling the girlfriend.
when they blatantly are.
It's all good.
Scenery doesn't count, right? It
No,
doesn't.
absolutely
does it?
not.
It just
Absolutely
doesn't. No.
Brilliant stuff. So, I mean, before we go, you guys have got plenty of stuff going on at the moment. I'm just having a look through. We've had the Talon book announced, so that's all your Talon stories collected together, John?
Yeah, that's Talon Witness, Executioner, Siren, and Ironclad, all bound together. It doesn't have Eagle's Talon and Iron Corpse in it because that's in Eye of Terror, the Eye of Terror compilation. But it's the main arc of of the original intention of what I was going to write for that. So that's all together with an afterword in it about why I wish I'd never said 10 million tanks. And I've just said it again to just make it worse.
Brilliant. That's. I know a lot of people are waiting for that to come out as a more complete story. And it's quite funny. I've cursed you a couple of times for making me want to start Iron Warriors. You and Graham together, and then maybe Guy Haley's fixed that for me with the Primarchs novel. Not in a bad way, in a very good way. Has shown a different side of Perturabo that I needed to see to stop me purchasing more toys, which is always good. You've also got Dark Compliance. So this is the one.
Oh yeah, the audio,
yeah. Horace sending his emissary to talk about how he's going to take a world.
Yeah. He basically sends it. Yeah, the whole idea being how do you conquer a galaxy with even as many troops as he does have? How do you even attempt to do that? And the answer is part of it is by just that old idea of cities surrendering to at the mere rumor of a general coming, of a particular leader or a general or an army coming, just laying down their swords and just going, okay, yeah, we surrender. We don't even want to begin the fight. And how he would actually create that kind of momentum. So he sends an emissary to a lone emissary to this world that basically says surrender. The guy says no, and he says, okay, that's fine, but I want you to make an informed choice. So I'm going to tell you a story of a world called Akazar Beta, which is a munition staging world for the Adeptus Mechanicus. So it's not even a forge world. It's where they keep all the weaponry. And Horus sets out to destroy it in under 24 hours and does so. And it's basically how he does that.
So you've each done novels, shorts, and audio as well. How do you find the different mediums? Do you enjoy stretching your legs in a slightly different style, or is it more challenging than that, or anything at all, or is it just a case of just getting your head around it?
Novels are always the kind of things which they start really good in your head, and then you go through these massive cycles of falling in and out of various emotions with the novel to the end. So they're a kind of a different challenge.
Sure.
Audio, I really like doing audio because it's a different medium, and you get to see what other people do with it once it's left your hands.
Right.
And that's quite cool. You get to go, oh, did that, sort of like that sounded a billion times better. It's like, Dark Compliance isn't out yet, is it? It's
no,
now, yeah.
not yet. It's
Is it
coming
previewed?
soon. Let me just check. It's on the coming soon page for July.
The voices of the tech priests in there, I absolutely love. There's a certain moment where there's a Myrmidax character in it, who says "kill protocol," and the effects on the voice are just perfect at that moment, and that makes it, it's fun like that makes doing audio really cool. And so yeah, I like doing that quite a lot.
Cool. How about you, Aaron? Because of course, you're writing The Road to Jove as well, which is a different thing as well.
Every time you jump into something new, for 10 minutes, it's the best idea ever. You're like, oh, this is so refreshing. And then you remember it's work, and I write fantastically slowly. And I rewrite constantly. 90% of me writing a book is me opening Word every morning going, you know what, I'll do that again. As John knows better than even my editors know, because I send draft after draft after draft to him, where only like a few lines will be different some days, and then the 3 chapters will be completely rewritten the next day. But it doesn't matter what I'm doing, except in the sense that audios or short stories finish faster, so they're slightly less painful. But I'm so jealous of writers who like writing because I hate it.
Yeah, and anything you do for work is subtly changed from something you do for fun.
Yeah, it's never good enough, the worst thing is when someone puts on one of my audio dramas or I have to listen to it again for research. Well, I can't do it. I cannot listen to someone reading my work out to me.
All right.
I can just about tolerate it with those Hell's Reach animations.
Oh yeah.
Because they're breathtaking. But even then, I'm like, oh god, this is so. I need to rewrite that line. That line's bad. It's nightmarish. So yeah. It's all horrible. But it's also there's a great line that I read in a parenting blog that said, "I don't enjoy parenting. I enjoy having parented." Sure. Like at the end of the day when they're in bed, you're like, being a dad's great. But when they're actually there peeing themselves and howling and all that stuff, it's horrible.
But even once you've released a book, you've written that you're still dreading it.
Yeah, I always do dread it because I know you can't make everyone happy all the time, but at the same time, it's our job to present. Or I take this job pretty seriously, and I try and present 40K as I understand it. It's not my version of it; it's the thing that exists through my lens, and I just try and make it as realistic and take itself seriously, and as conversely as accessible as possible. And I don't like letting people down. I hate the idea of getting crap reviews because someone didn't get it. If someone doesn't like my characterization or my pace, or I'm fine with that. That's absolutely perfect. Whatever. But if someone says, "Oh, 40K isn't like that," that just boils my blood. Yeah. Not just because I think my way is like the one true way, but because I'll spend a year and a half researching things, sending questions to countless IP people, sending draft in again and again and again to get checked over by the law people. I have every word ever printed about chaos and words beyond, what's ever been printed. So it's not like I suck at doing research. But that's why a lot of the Master of Mankind controversy, which again, thankfully was only, mostly in the first week in the Chani Reddity places, But like a lot of that it was just mystifying to me because it's like, but that's. I didn't invent this. I didn't change anything. I just presented what the actual deal was.
And also, I think it's sometimes you have to, choices like we were talking about earlier, like what characters you're going to show, what point of view, you're going to get. It's like, how much, because everyone has a different style as well. One of the things that has become very clear to me is that I like writing small ensembles of characters, as opposed to big sprawling things with huge numbers of characters and vast scenes. I'm not as comfortable doing that. Other writers are. And so, if someone gives me a particular topic to do, I'll probably take it from a certain point of view. And when you're doing that, you're very conscious. It's like, if you're coming to this novel to see, it's a classic example being, I put him in because I wanted to, and I wanted to show him in a certain role, in Praetorian of Dawn, was Sigismund. It's like, this is not going to be Sigismund's novel. It's just not. He's going to be there because he's in the solar system. So and he's the first captain. So he's got a role to play. But it's not his novel. And I just knew that straight away that would be a whole kind of bunch of people going, where's my Sigismund novel?
I have that exact same thing with the Black Legion series. I have resisted from day one, because Black Library wanted to call it the Abaddon series. The same way you've got like the Ahriman series and Fabius Bile and etc. I've resisted that from day one because the best historical fiction is rarely from the point of view of that person. It's from the right hand man of that person. Yeah. If you read The Winter King, it's from the point of view of one of King Arthur's champions who's at his side. Gates of Fire is about a Spartan squire who was with the 300. And that's the Black Legion, the same thing. It's not about Abaddon. It's about being present in the rise of the Black Legion at Abaddon's side for a lot of it. It's Chaon's story. It's not, I have the same thing with Sigismund as well, because Black Legion is effectively the Black Legion having to break out past the Black Templars to escape the Eye of Terror. And everyone's going, oh, there's going to be all this stuff about Sigismund. I'm thinking, uh-oh.
No, yeah. It's like, nope.
He's one dude.
Nope, not going to get that.
And
Gates of Fire isn't about the Persians.
I was about to say something about something I actually can't say about with a particular character, but I'll use a different example. It's like with Dawn, people going, oh yeah, you're totally going to get loads of stuff inside Dawn's head. You're not. Sorry. Just not what this story's about. And you have to consciously make those kind of choices in order to try and write a really strong novel. But while you're doing it, you know that there are a bunch of expectations out there, but you can't try and please all of those because otherwise you just end up, you actually just end up with a mess.
Yeah, and it amazes me when people read a Dan Abnett novel and they've read loads of Dan Abnett novels and they're like, oh, it was mainly from the point of view of this human. And the Space Marines are around them, and I'm like, have you read a Dan Abnett novel? Because he does it really well, and that's what he does. Not to say he can't do other stuff, but he likes to do that. So I think sometimes as readers, people have to take it on the chin and admit that they don't.
Talon being an example, it's kind of like, I decided right back at the beginning that I wanted to do multiple small points of view in a huge war about characters that had a critical impact on the war, but didn't know they were having a critical impact on the war. And that actually, they would be forgotten. The great line of 40K, you will not be missed. These were people that have been completely forgotten, but actually had a huge impact. But what that meant was also it wasn't going to be about 10 million tanks. And which is why I should never.
They're just off screen.
Ever said that.
They're just off screen. It's fine.
They are. They're there. They're the noise above, in the background of your head. Whatever. Yeah.
Okay. So I will wrap this up quick. I am aware of your time. John, you've got the Horisian Wars stuff. So we've got Resurrection and the audio Blood and Lies.
Yep.
Can't wait for these. No pressure.
Thank you. Yeah. I can't wait to see what people actually make of them. Aaron's read it.
Aaron has read it.
One word on it, Aaron?
I'm so jealous. I so wish I'd written it.
Standard Aaron line. Insert that.
It really annoys me.
Brilliant. We said it a number of times. The return to that style of book for Black Library is really exciting for a lot of people. With Chris's Carrion Thrones out now as well, so people have started to read that. Really looking forward to delving into that kind of stuff. So,
Carrion Throne is awesome as well. It's well worth picking up. Well worth picking up if people haven't. Yeah, it's on Terra. It's Inquisitors on Terra, and he has this awesome thing where some of them have fiefs and basically live in these sort of spire towers and things like that, which are handed down from one Inquisitor. It's very, very cool. Very, very cool.
Awesome. And Aaron, there's a little book coming out in July, whenever it is, August, that no one's really worried about. Yeah, August.
Would that be Black Legion?
That would be the Black Legion.
I've read that too.
It's lost the now, so now it's just Black Legion.
It's just Black Legion. Oh, look at that. Yeah. Following on from the story in the first one.
Yes, it's the first battle of the Long War. In fact, the Black Legion has set itself up, and it's trying to deal with a few pesky warlords that remain, and Abaddon keeps sending Kaon out to finish them off, and for various reasons he's struggling to do that, but he's on a time frame because the Black Legion needs to break out of the Eye of Terror quick smart. But of course, the Black Templars are waiting for them.
Can I also slightly spoil on Aaron's behalf a slight feature of it, which I just think is awesome in terms of context, which is, again, it's about perspective, which is, from 40k point of view, it seems inevitable that, Abaddon is going to be the War Master of Chaos. But what if there were other candidates?
Cool.
And I'll leave it at that.
Excellent. So, there we go. There's a little tease for the listeners out there. Yeah, can't wait for that. That if you're going to want the limited edition, listeners, I suggest you are pressing the Remind Me button and keeping an eye on the exact release date for that.
Oh my god,
it has
so
a ghost panther in it. It has a ghost panther.
A ghost panther. There we go. So, have you signed all them yet, Aaron?
I have, and
How's the rest?
Posted a picture a couple of weeks ago that it took me 7.5 hours to sign them all.
You did them
but
in
there's
one go?
so many. There's like
2,000.
Did you do your signature as well? Metallica?
My Metallica signature, yes.
Yeah. Oh my god!
The thing is, like, there's no way
did it like
thousands will sell. I'm gonna look like the king of losers.
Did it like degenerate into just something just sort of
no,
like
I had 6 Sharpies.
vague, angular thing, but
No.
Right.
So like when one Sharpie would die, I'd just use a new one.
So we've been talking about limited editions with Michael from Tracker Words, who's on the show reviewing books, and talking about how Black Library seem to have got the numbers about right for the limited edition releases.
I'm
that happen at the moment.
scared.
They're running out within a few weeks, which seems reasonable.
Yep.
I reckon 30 minutes. I'm going to say it now.
Not 2,000.
Yeah.
I'm going to be the king of losers. I'm serious.
Yeah.
it'll be under a day.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
without a shadow of a doubt. I'm going to say 30 minutes. Not quite the old days of the Black Library site crashing.
I think that was more down to the servers at that time,
I
but
do
yes.
think it was, but it was so.
I've done that actually.
I
I've
took
crashed the site twice.
You crashed.
I took a night off work to get Aurelian because I was like, I'm into this series, I'm collecting them all. And because I didn't get the gold, I was like, stuff it, I'm not collecting them all anymore. I've only got the silver one. And then they were like, oh, we found some. I was like, oh, curses. I'm back into spending loads of money. But yeah,
Nice.
a long time ago now. But excellent. Yeah, so really looking forward to Black Legion. And following on that story with everything that goes on there. And you've got Road to Jove going on as well. So do you want to chat about that very briefly for those who might not know?
I always wanted to do a webcomic, so I'm doing a webcomic. I don't really know what to say about it, so I'll just spare the awkward pitch and say, if you give a damn about my webcomic, go Google Road to Jove, and if not, I won't be offended.
And there's a Patreon for that as well, isn't there?
Stop it.
Okay, there's a Patreon for that as well.
He's good though.
You can find it on Patreon as well, so go and support that. Particularly, I need to get back into comics because I can be a bit lazy with them. But yeah, excellent. So that's all we know about you coming out. I very much doubt you're allowed to tell us any more, but I'm going to ask. Working on anything else you can tell us about?
I think we can say a bit, can't we?
Probably a bit. Yeah, I mean, I can say that I think I'm literally finishing a heresy novel at the moment, which is unannounced, but I'm doing one, and it's almost done. Which would probably be a bit controversial. He said. Mm-hmm.
In a good way,
we were talking about this the other day. So, yeah. And then beyond that, I'll be doing the second one in Heresian Wars, which it's got a few titles floating around at the moment. And then hopefully some more stuff around that. And yeah, that's what's on the slate at the moment.
Awesome. Aaron?
I recently went to Black Library and said, "Can I start my own chapter?" And they said, "Okay." I thought, oh, that was easier than I thought it was going to be. So I'm writing about the Emperor's Spears, Space Marine chapter. After that, it will be something that I can't talk about. Vaguely heresy related. After that, it will probably be the Demon Sword, which is the third. That's the work in progress title, not the actual one, for the next Black Legion book, which will be about Abaddon claiming Draknion, which Kaon is desperate for him not to do, because Kaon thinks Draknion is an extremely bad idea.
Cool.
And he might be right.
He probably is right. And after that, it will probably be another heresy book, if I'm lucky.
Awesome. Yeah, just a quick one on that. Well, first off, the Emperor's Spears, is that new 40k setting? Or are you allowed to tell us, or not?
It's set in the Indomitus Crusade.
Okie dokie. And
yes.
Demon Sword, that moment in the Master of Mankind was one of the few kind of, I really didn't expect that moments. That was really awesome. And yeah, I hope we can see that move forwards in the future. Is there anything else you guys want to say before we close this up?
Thanks for having us.
Oh, no,
yeah,
no,
it's
absolutely.
been great.
Thanks for coming on. You're doing it the wrong way round. Well, hopefully we'll try and get you guys on again at some point. Whether together or... because I think having the two of you on chatting worked really well. So thank you for coming on, and we'll have some music and go to the next section.
I hope you found that interview as entertaining and fun as I did. I say interview, half the time they were talking to each other, which is perfect because my stupid comments get left out of what they're saying. And sometimes it showed, there were a couple of moments in there where it showed that sometimes I tried to say something, it doesn't quite come out that way, and was put in my place by John, which is great, which is really cool.
That time someone did that.
Yeah, too right. Well, John and Aaron can do it easily enough. It's fine. But yeah, we're going to keep it really short this episode with everything that's going on. With the event, we've got Warhammer Fest coming up. We've got all the feedback for the London Heresy to go through as well. Our side of it and some players, hopefully. And that's going to take up a lot of time. And this episode's going to come out, so we are going to keep this one short. I do apologise for that, but that's the nature of the beast. Hopefully you did enjoy it. Before we do go and do everything, I have got a few shout-outs for people. I was contacted by Lucas on Facebook from the Lone Star Legion. And so I assume that's Texas. Yes, it is. Hurst, Texas. July 7th to 9th. There's a Horus Heresy event. So it's only about 20 miles east of Dallas. It's a conference centre near an airport as well, which is really good with lodging. And it's a Friday evening, all day Saturday and Sunday morning and afternoon. 3,000 points with, 300 point tactical strike games, GM'd. Saturday's like 2,500 points Age of Darkness. And Sunday, 3,000 point battles alongside more small GM'd events, which is cool. And it's what is cool is they've done it. There's a narrative based on the event. The narrative of the event is based on the Furious Abyss's sister ships. So if you've read No Fear, they're mentioned in there. Get the right book. Might have got the wrong book. But they're definitely mentioned in one of those Ultramarine type things. And this is going to be an event for all comers, veterans, and newbies as well. 3 days. You can kind of pick and choose what parts you do and stuff for $40. And that's entrance to the con and the event for all 3 days. The maximum of 30 players. So if you do want to get involved, you need to head on over to the Lone Star Legion Facebook page, Lone Star Legion 30k, and then there's an event Facebook page as well. And I will put those up for everyone to click on in the show notes. But yeah, that sounds really cool. The smaller games is something I've been looking at trying to get more of, really, and run more myself as well. So certainly something I'll be interested in. So I might go and have a look at their pack to see what they're up to. I'm not going to fly over to Texas for it, unfortunately. The Imperial Truth cannot sustain my desire for international hobbying.
Yet,
yeah. In maybe in 2070, I might reach a point where it can pay for me to go somewhere. Who knows? Yeah. And talking about international hobbying, there's another one as well. So this is Salt Lake City in Utah. So this is Bjorn. It's got hold of me. The Burning of Praxis Tertius. October the 8th and 9th at the Bow. So there's day 1, it's Centurion event. Day 2, 2,500 point Age of Darkness event. They're utilising the Varangian Heresy FAQ, which is cool. And the Eye of Horus Centurion document, which is something I haven't really tried yet, and sounds like a lot of fun, actually, the Eye of Horus guys making that up. And there's a pack there as well, which I'll try and post up for everyone to have a look at. So if you're in Utah, Salt Lake City area, October the 8th and 9th, get hold of Bjorn or the show and we can pass you on. That looks pretty cool to me.
sounds good.
Certainly does. Now, you may have noticed that Neil's little section is not on this show. We have topics. We have had some requests. We are looking for more requests. They will be back next show. As I say, timings didn't work out, did they? You were busy during the week and I was busy in life. But we're going to carry it on because at least one person liked it, so that's enough reason, isn't it?
Exactly, yeah.
Yeah,
if you can reach one person.
Yeah, absolutely. We're podcasting straight to you. So, we're going to carry on with that, which is cool. So if you do have any questions, requests, any of that stuff, Greg or Neil at theimperialtruth.com for our emails. And of course, regular updates from Neil on Instagram, I'm sure, of his summoner.
Yeah, do you know what? I've been so bad on Instagram of late. But I will get some on there.
Yeah, sure. And I'll try and post some stuff up as well, maybe, or at Child of Fang. And then, of course, on Twitter as well. So at Imperial_Truth and at Child of Fang, which is, if you want to keep up with my ramblings on stuff and maybe my 365 challenge, that's a good place to do that. So still about I'm about 24 hours behind now, I think. So
you're falling behind.
Yeah, it's far too easy to fall behind. I need those weekends to really catch up. It's not like I'm away for like Warhammer Fest for another weekend in 2 weeks, is it? No. So I need to get a few catch-up sessions in. But hopefully that'll be get that done. The Facebook as well. I'm hoping to collect a load of pictures. The London 40k GT had their own photographer going round, and he took some really nice photos of stuff. So hopefully he's going to send me over a load, and we can put them onto our Facebook photo album, because there were some photos and we put some up on Twitter, and they're cool. I'll put them on there as well. But when the armies were displayed, getting a camera that can zoom right in on Matt Woodsmith, his Praetor General's face, and it still looks amazing zoomed in, you know. Those kind of pictures are really cool to have as well. So people can actually go and look for their army photos as well if they want them, which is good.
And sort of tell people about the armies they fought and said, this was the one I fought.
Yeah. This is that tank I was telling you about. If you do want to see, actually, the Warhammer Live guys chose to run our third game on the live stream. So Brendan from the Sons of Heresy and Matt Woodsmith got to play with his Mastodon on the live stream. And it's an interesting conversation piece for the commentators, because there are a lot of people who are watching the stream who don't know anything about the heresy. And I think sometimes we forget that the 40k players, even, not just Age of Sigmar players, but 40k players, really, there are some that just don't pay attention to what's going on with the heresy because they're so, caught up in 40k. So a lot of the commentary is trying to explain stuff, and Rob's trying to remember the rules for all the Mechanicum and all the World Eater stuff, and there's a lot to try and remember, particularly if you don't play Mechanicum regularly.
Mechanicum is like a different whole nother set, isn't it?
Yeah, and as a Mechanicum player, I'm never going to have a go at anyone for getting a Mechanicum name or rule wrong, because as a Mechanicum player, I've done it enough times myself.
Yes.
Is it that guy or that guy? So it's really easy to do, particularly when there's pressure on you to entertain and things like that as well. It's not what Warhammer Live do is not what 30k channel does. It's not what the 40k Oz 40k guys do. It's not that kind of thing. It is more of a sports poker style commentary over the top of a top down kind of view of the game, giving a rough explanation of what's going on rather than maybe picking out all the details. And also at the time they're trying to entertain and deal with questions, but there's some really good close-ups in that game as well. I quite enjoyed the little bits I got to see and hear of it as I was walking around. And it was great. Nick, the guy who kind of feeds the data back to the commentators, Eddie and Rob, he doesn't know anything about 30k really. It was quite interesting. So he was learning all these, when you start telling people like the Triorus and the da-da-da-da and the Macrocarrid Explorator, he was kind of like, right, okay. And then at the end of that game, I saw him looking at the Invictus Caesarians on Facebook's page, because he's a big Ultramarines fan. So hopefully we gained at least one Heresy player from that. So if you know Nick, then feel free to tell him he should be playing Heresy. And he can play Ultramarines in that instead of 40k. But yeah, it was really good to do. It was great the guys to put us on there as well, and it's something that Rob wants to do more often. And the more it happens, the less it needs to be an explained game as well.
Yeah, I really enjoyed it as well, because as much as I try to tune into Warhammer TV when I can, I don't really take any huge interest in 40k or into Age of Sigmar. So if something like that's on, I probably wouldn't, pay much attention, but it was great hearing people talk about it, getting it out there, the armies looked fantastic as well. They looked absolute business on there. Some of the imagery coming through from the cameras, I just thought, what a great way to showcase the heresy.
Yeah, absolutely. These are the two of the three armies that were up for best army. And on top of that, Matt's named all his characters. He's like, I can't even remember the name of his Praetor now, but he's like, it's him, the Terrible. And it was like, hold on, he was called the Impaler last turn. He's like, oh, he's got many, many names. Yeah. But he's going for it all. And just to have a Mastodon on the screen, all these 40k players were walking past, when his army was out going, oh, he's got one of those super double-sized tanks. They didn't know the name for it, for a few of them, and they just looked kind of confused. So that was really cool. So, that's on Twitch. Now you have to subscribe to see, old videos, but if you've got Amazon Prime, you get one free subscription a month. So if you've got Amazon Prime, it's not going to cost you anything to subscribe for a month, and actually you can change it after a month if you don't like it, but
Well, it automatically kicks you out after a month.
It does, exactly. So it's even better in a way. But if you find there's something there, particularly the Thursdays for Games Workshop, they do like behind the scenes. So they'll talk to people from the studio or from the design team or from the model makers, the display guys. So there's a lot of cool information you can have on there as well, which is great, which is really good. So yes. But I think I've warbled enough with my poorly voice, and I'm shattered. 3 days of running the event. It's been great fun, but I am absolutely shattered. So I think we'll wrap it up. Was there anything you wanted to add, Neil, before we go?
No.
Wonderful as ever.
As it.
Yeah, brilliant. Thank you guys for listening. You have been listening to The Imperial Truth.